Today, we are diving into one of the most crucial questions for any new player stepping into the grim darkness of the 41st millennium. Which classes should beginners choose, and which weapons and loadouts will set them up for success right from the start? Whether you're exploring the hive cities of Tertium in Warhammer 40,000, Darktide, or purging heretics in Warhammer 40,000, Inquisitor, Martyr, understanding your class's strengths and weaknesses can make a massive difference in how smoothly your early game goes. Before we jump into the details, let me briefly outline what this video is all about. We're going to cover 1. Why choosing the right class matters and how it shapes your entire experience. 2. A detailed breakdown of the available classes, with an emphasis on 2 popular online Warhammer 40,000 titles, Darktide and Inquisitor, Martyr. 3. Recommended beginner-friendly weapons that won't overwhelm you as you learn the ropes. 4th, loadout strategies and how to combine gear, skills, and tactics for optimal performance in early missions. 5. Finally, we'll wrap up with practical leveling tips so you don't find yourself stuck at the lower levels while your friends zoom past you. Setting the stage, the grimdark universe. The Warhammer 40K universe can be quite intimidating for newcomers. There's a colossal amount of lore, multiple factions, and centuries of backstory. But don't worry, you don't need a doctorate in Warhammer 40,000 studies to have a good time. By focusing on a handful of key concepts, like who the Imperium is, why chaos is so dangerous, and what role your character plays, you can quickly grasp the stakes and start enjoying the action. However, beyond the lore, a big hurdle for new players is figuring out which character class to choose. Different classes have drastically different playstyles. Some prioritize ranged combat, others excel in melee, and some focus on magical-like abilities powered by the warp. We want to give you the basics you need to confidently pick your first class and outfit it with gear that suits your gameplay style. We'll keep it straightforward. Darktide typically offers 4 main classes: Veteran Sharpshooter, Zealot Preacher, Ogryn, and Psyker. Inquisitor. Martyr offers several archetypes such as the Crusader, Assassin, Psyker, and Tech Adept. Of course, each game can have additional specializations, skill trees, and advanced mechanics, but we'll zero in on the most accessible aspects for beginners. You'll see how each class handles weapons, which loadouts are easiest to manage in the early game, and how to adapt as you level up. By the end of this video, you should have a clear idea of how to pick a class that aligns with your preferred style: ranged, melee, stealth, support, etc. Understand which weapons are beginner-friendly versus which ones are more advanced. Build a loadout that's balanced in terms of damage, survivability, and crowd control. Tackle those early missions with confidence, whether solo or in a co-op setting. I'll also sprinkle in some tips regarding progression systems. Warhammer 40K games often reward players with experience points and gear upgrades, and I'll give you some basic guidelines to maximize your gains without spending endless hours grinding. So, without further ado, let's dive into Chapter 2, where we'll break down the main classes in both Darktide and Inquisitor, Martyr, highlighting their most critical features and why they might, or might not, be a great pick for you as a newcomer. Welcome to the class overview. In the Warhammer 40K universe, a character's class defines not only their combat style, but also their place in the grimdark saga. Different games have unique twists on the classic archetypes, but certain roles appear consistently. Ranged specialists, melee-focused brawlers, psychic casters, and hybrid classes that blend multiple functions. Let's begin by examining 2 of the most prominent Warhammer 40K online titles, Darktide and Inquisitor, Martyr. Then we'll discuss what each class brings to the battlefield. Here are the Darktide classes: Veteran Sharpshooter. Role and gameplay. The Veteran Sharpshooter excels at ranged combat, picking off enemies at medium to long distances. This class thrives on precision and situational awareness. Beginner appeal. The Veteran is often recommended for newcomers because it's a straightforward shooter archetype. You learn to manage ammunition, aim for weak points, and deal consistent damage without needing overly complex mechanics. Potential weaknesses. While ranged damage is their forte, veterans can be vulnerable if overwhelmed by hordes in close quarters. Good positioning is crucial. Zealot Preacher. Role and gameplay. Zealots are all about melee aggression. They charge headfirst into the fray, fueled by their unwavering faith in the Emperor. Armed with weapons like chainswords or thunderhammers, they specialize in taking down heavily armored targets. Beginner appeal. If you love in-your-face combat and relish the thrill of slicing through hordes, the Zealot is perfect. The sheer damage output can be fantastic. Potential weaknesses. Zealots need to be comfortable dodging and blocking attacks. Running blindly into crowds can lead to a swift demise if you forget about defense. Ogryn. Role and gameplay. Ogryns are towering subhumans with massive strength and plenty of health. They're the tanks of Darktide, adept at crowd control and capable of absorbing punishment that would fell a regular human. Beginner appeal. Their durability makes them forgiving for newcomers. If you're just learning the game's mechanics, it's nice not to be one-shot by a stray chaos cultist. Potential weaknesses. Limited agility and slower movement can make advanced maneuvers harder. Also, Ogryns may have fewer precise ranged options, relying more on brute force. Psyker. Role and gameplay. Psykers harness warp energy to unleash devastating powers. Whether you're exploding enemies' heads or launching arcs of psychic lightning, you can deal massive damage at range. However, you must manage a resource called Peril. Beginner appeal. This class is extremely satisfying for players who enjoy a spellcaster-like role, but it can be a bit more complicated due to the need to vent peril and avoid self-inflicted damage. Potential weaknesses. Squishier than other classes, and the advanced resource management can be a hurdle for absolute beginners. Inquisitor Martyr classes. Crusader. Role and gameplay. The Crusader is akin to a Space Marine, tough, versatile, and capable of using a variety of ranged and melee weapons. This is a balanced class that can handle most situations decently well. Beginner appeal, straightforward gameplay, and a wealth of gear options. If you're new to Inquisitor, Martyr, the Crusader's reliability and survivability make it a top pick. Potential weaknesses. Lacks the extreme specialization of other classes, so if you're looking for a high DPS glass cannon or a dedicated summoner, you might find the Crusader too general. Assassin. Role and gameplay, fast, agile, and lethal. In single-target takedowns, the Assassin excels at weaving in and out of combat. Expect high critical damage and the ability to exploit enemies' weaknesses. Beginner appeal. Fantastic. If you enjoy a swift playstyle and are comfortable with lighter defenses, veterans of action RPGs will appreciate the nimble maneuvering. Potential weaknesses. Lower health pool and reliance on evasion or stealth. Mistakes in positioning can be punishing. Psyker. Role and gameplay. Similar to the Psyker in Darktide, this class manipulates warp energies to unleash potent abilities. They can annihilate hordes of enemies but must juggle resource management. Beginner appeal. Psykers are appealing if you love the concept of a magical or psychic class. You'll have an array of spells like area of effect blasts, crowd control, and potent range strikes. Potential weaknesses. Complexity in managing warp heat or other resources. May require more micromanagement compared to the Crusader or Assassin. Tech Adept. Role and gameplay. A pet class that commands constructs, turrets, and other mechanical minions. You can customize your robotic allies for different functions, defensive turrets, attack drones, etc. Beginner appeal. Ideal for those who enjoy strategic gameplay, summoning, and controlling multiple units. If you prefer letting your constructs do the heavy lifting, this is your class. Potential weaknesses. Requires an understanding of how to optimize your mechanical minions. Might feel slower or more methodical in early levels compared to more direct classes. Which class is right for you? Ranged focus. If shooting from a distance is your comfort zone, choose the Veteran or the Crusader. Melee carnage. Go for the Zealot or consider a melee-heavy Assassin build. Tank or Bruiser. The Ogryn is the quintessential tank, while the Crusader can also be built tanky. Caster or Magic-style gameplay. Both Psyker variants offer tremendous power but demand careful resource management. Pet class or Summoner. The Tech Adept is a unique spin for those who love commanding an army of mechanical constructs. No class is inherently wrong for beginners, but some will have a gentler learning curve. The Veteran Sharpshooter and Crusader are often cited as the most beginner-friendly, while the Psyker classes might be the trickiest to master right away. Still, if you're passionate about a particular fantasy, like being a psychic warrior, don't let complexity scare you off. Just be prepared for a steeper learning path. Alright, now that we have a solid grasp of the different classes, let's talk about the tools of destruction at your disposal. In the Warhammer 40,000 universe, weapons are as iconic as the factions themselves. Think of the mighty bolter, the roaring chainsword, and the devastating plasma gun. But if you're new, the sheer variety can be overwhelming. Let's break down some beginner-friendly weapons and loadout tips for Darktide and Inquisitor. Martyr. Darktide. Weapon recommendations. First Veteran Sharpshooter. Laser Gun, M35 or equivalent variants. A staple for ranged combat. Laser rifles offer a good balance of rate of fire, accuracy, and ammo efficiency. They're easy to handle, making them ideal for novices. Auto gun or auto pistol, faster firing than a laser gun, though sometimes less accurate. Excellent for dealing with swarms at mid-range. Melee backup, a standard combat sword or an axe can handle close-quarters emergencies. Second Zealot Preacher, chainsword or chain axe. These are quintessential 40K melee weapons, high DPS, and extremely satisfying for hacking through heretics. Shotgun or stub revolver. For when you need some mid-range punch, shotguns can shred tightly packed foes, while revolvers deal heavy single-target damage. Loadout tip: prioritize gear that boosts your melee damage and survivability, as you'll be in the thick of the fight. Tertium, Ripper Gun, a massive rapid-fire shotgun-like weapon that complements the Ogren's brute strength. It rips through clusters of enemies with ease. Bully Club or Slab Shield, a blunt instrument for crowd control or a shield for defensive play, ensuring you can stand firm against waves of enemies. Loadout. Tip: health, armor, and stamina are key. Don't worry too much about fancy combos. Focus on holding the line. Fier to Psyker. Force Staff. This is your bread and butter if you plan to unleash warp-based ranged attacks. Different staffs specialize in various effects: explosive attacks, lightning arcs, or charged blasts. Melee choice. A basic sword or mace works in a pinch, but rely primarily on your psychic abilities. Loadout. Tip: you'll want gear that helps you manage peril and possibly reduces cooldowns for your psychic powers. Inquisitor, Martyr, weapon recommendations: 1. Crusader, bolter or auto gun. The bolter is iconic for its explosive rounds, while the auto gun provides higher rate of fire. Both are beginner-friendly, offering good range and respectable damage. Chainsword or power sword, melee. The Crusader can handle melee fairly well, so having a sword for close encounters is smart. Loadout. Tip: balance your ranged and melee gear. The Crusader can do both decently, so don't pigeonhole yourself entirely into one style early on. Second Assassin, sniper rifle or needler, great for picking off priority targets at long range. Dual auto pistols or las pistols. If you prefer a run-and-gun style, these allow quick bursts of damage while maintaining mobility. Melee options. Blades that emphasize critical hits or poison effects synergize with the assassin's hit-and-run tactics. Loadout. Tip: focus on boosting crit chance and movement speed. Trejace Psyker. Force Rod or las pistol. You'll rely heavily on psychic spells, so your firearm might just be a backup. Some rods also provide psychic buffs or synergy with certain abilities. Loadout tip: check items that reduce warp heat or enhance your spell damage. You want to avoid overloading yourself with peril or heat. Fourth Tech Adept. Lascarbine Kapias, Waskadial, Akai, Volkite weapons. Useful ranged tools if you need direct DPS. Summons, Constructs. This is the heart of the Tech Adept's gameplay, so invest in gear that improves your mechanical allies. Loadout. Tip: make sure to balance your personal DPS with your construct's capabilities. If they're all defense-based constructs, you might struggle to deal enough damage quickly. General loadout principles. Synergy with your class. Make sure your weapons and gear augment your core strengths. A long-range class should focus on stability, ammo capacity, or critical hit chance for ranged weapons. A melee bruiser wants higher stamina or block efficiency. Stat increases. In both Darktide and Inquisitor, Martyr, look out for gear that boosts your class's main stats. For instance, if you're a Psyker, anything reducing your peril or warp heat is invaluable. Don't overcomplicate. Early on, for your first 10 to 15 levels, it's better to keep a straightforward loadout that you're comfortable with rather than chasing highly specialized gear. Focus on learning enemy attack patterns, mission objectives, and your class's unique abilities. Try before you invest. If the game allows, test different weapon types to see what clicks with your playstyle. Sometimes a weapon might look fantastic on paper but feels awkward to use. Equipped with these recommendations, you should have a solid grasp of which weapons can serve you well in your early missions. Now that you've chosen a class and selected some beginner-friendly weapons, let's talk about leveling up efficiently. Warhammer 40K games can sometimes present a bit of a grind, especially if you're aiming to reach higher difficulties or unlock advanced gear. But with a strategic approach, you can avoid leveling bottlenecks and keep the experience enjoyable. Tip 1. Pick the right missions. Difficulty versus reward. In games like Darktide, missions come in various difficulty tiers. Choosing a mission that's too easy yields less XP, but picking one too difficult can lead to repeated failures, costing time and resources. Aim for a difficulty level you can handle comfortably. Completing missions is usually more important than the raw difficulty multiplier. Bonus events and rotations. Keep an eye on limited-time events or special mission rotations that offer extra XP or unique loot. For instance, a weekend event might grant double XP, giving you a chance to speed through levels. Tip 2. Play in a group. Co-op. Synergy, Warhammer. 40,000 titles are often designed with teamwork in mind. Not only does playing in a group make many missions easier, but you may also receive bonus XP for co-op activities. Learn from others. Observing how veteran players approach tough encounters can teach you valuable tactics. Don't be shy about asking for tips in voice chat or text chat. Most players are happy to share knowledge. Tip 3. Optimize your gear gradually. Level appropriate upgrades. You don't need a top-tier endgame weapon at level 5. In fact, you'll typically outgrow gear quickly in the early stages, so invest resources wisely. Focus on key stats. For instance, if you're an Ogryn in Darktide, gear that boosts your survivability is always a good bet. If you're a Psyker, items that mitigate peril or warp heat are golden. Tip 4. Don't neglect side missions or bounties. Secondary objectives. Some missions or side quests offer substantial XP and gear rewards. Even if these tasks seem optional, completing them can accelerate your leveling. Weekly or daily challenges. Many modern online games, including Warhammer 40K ones, feature rotating challenges that provide extra XP, unique currency, or loot boxes. Check your challenge log regularly to maximize efficiency. Tip 5. Learn enemy weak points. Faster kills equals more XP. Understanding how to kill enemies quickly can save you time. For example, aiming at a plague, Ogryn's head, or a Chaos Warrior's weak spots can drastically reduce their time to kill. Class-specific advantages. A sharpshooter excels at precise critical hits from afar, while a zealot can exploit melee vulnerabilities. Exploit your class's specialty to clear missions faster. Tip 6. Mind your team's composition. Balance teams. Succeed, especially in higher difficulties. A diverse group with ranged damage, melee crowd control, and support can clear missions more quickly and safely. Synergize abilities. Some classes can buff allies or debuff enemies. Coordinate with your teammates to chain these effects for maximum efficiency. Try to avoid common pitfalls like rushing into high difficulties too soon. While it's tempting to jump to the highest difficulty for better rewards, constant mission failures can end up netting you less XP over time. Ignoring defensive stats. Damage is crucial, but if you die repeatedly, you're wasting time. Balance your offensive and defensive capabilities. Burnout from solo grinding. If you're always playing solo, you might find certain missions tedious or too challenging. Try out co-op or even random matchmaking to keep things fresh. Also try to leveling your mindset by steady progress. Over rapid gains, while power leveling guides can be helpful, don't forget to enjoy the journey, especially if you're new to the Warhammer 40,000 lore. Engage with the story, soak in the atmosphere, and let your progression feel natural. Experimentation is key. Use the early and mid-game to test different weapon combos and skill allocations. There's plenty of time to refine a top-tier build once you understand the game's nuances. Congratulations, you've now got a solid understanding of the best beginner classes, weapons, loadouts, and leveling strategies in the Warhammer 40,000 universe. Let's do a quick recap of everything we covered, and then I'll leave you with a few parting thoughts and suggestions to help you on your journey. Recap of key takeaways. First class choice matters. Pick a class that resonates with your playstyle. If you prefer methodical shooting, go with the Veteran or Crusader. If you love melee action, try the Zealot or build an assassin for close quarters annihilation. Want to be the ultimate tank? Ogryn or a tanky Crusader. Feeling adventurous with powers of the warp? Psyker is the way to go. Second, weapon selection. Choose weapons that complement your class's strengths. Darktide's Veteran pairs nicely with a laser gun for reliable ranged damage, while the Zealot shines with a chainsword. In Inquisitor Martyr, the Crusader works well with bolters, and the Tech Adept relies on mechanical constructs. Third, efficient leveling. Strike a balance between mission difficulty and completion rate. Don't forget to play co-op for extra XP and to learn from more experienced players. Side missions, daily challenges, and events can also speed up your progression. Fourth, loadout consistency. Focus on gear that enhances your core skills. If you're a melee tank, invest in health and armor. If you're a ranged DPS, aim for better ammo capacity and accuracy. If you're a psyker, minimize warp heat or peril. 5. Enjoy the grimdark atmosphere. While leveling up can be a grind, remember that Warhammer 40,000 is beloved for its rich lore and dark ambiance. Take time to appreciate the story, the environments, and the unique enemies you'll face. Now that you know the fundamentals, here are some avenues to explore as you get more comfortable. Advanced builds and skill trees. Once you're no longer a beginner, you can dive into highly specialized builds. For example, a Zealot could focus on bonus damage against elites, or a Psyker could specialize in crowd control spells. Endgame content, higher difficulty missions, raids, if available, and special events often require deep knowledge of your class and synergy with other players' builds. Lore exploration. Warhammer 40,000 has decades of novels, codices, and short stories that delve into its universe. Understanding the lore can add extra weight and immersion to your gaming experience. Common questions and quick answers. Is it essential to buy DLC or expansions early on? Not necessarily. It's best to see if you enjoy the core gameplay before committing to extra content. However, expansions can offer new classes, gear, and storylines, which might be appealing once you've settled in. How do I deal with toxic teammates or negative experiences in co-op? Luckily, the Warhammer 40K community is often friendly, but every multiplayer environment can have a few bad apples. Mute or block if needed, and seek out groups or Discord servers dedicated to positive cooperative play. What if I'm struggling with a particular boss or mission? Don't hesitate to lower the difficulty temporarily or group up with friends or a community that can guide you through. Practice, gear upgrades, and understanding boss mechanics usually solve these roadblocks. Warhammer 40K is more than just a game setting. It's an expansive universe teeming with stories of heroism, treachery, sacrifice, and unending war. By selecting a class that fits your style, equipping yourself with the right weapons, and approaching leveling strategically, you'll be able to enjoy this universe without getting bogged down by confusion or frustration. The path you choose, be it faithful soldier of the Imperium, unyielding Ogryn, or reality-warping psyker, is entirely up to you. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, please give it a like and consider subscribing to the channel. Drop a comment below if you have any further questions, or if there's a specific topic in Warhammer 40,000 you'd like me to cover next. Remember, in the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war, but that doesn't mean you have to do it alone. Join up with allies, learn from each other, and share the passion for the hobby and the lore. Until next time, stay vigilant, keep your bolter loaded, and may the Emperor protect.